Okay, so a couple of things have now changed with the code. Looking at that, one of these is that now this ring init position is now sort of preset with a number of slice sort of start points. So these are all start points: init position, initial position. The offset still remains the same. So the offset is going to be the size of the window, let's say, so wherever the finish point is going to be. Current position, rather than setting it manually at the beginning, is now decided by, is randomly selected from the initial position variable here. That's what we have there. Slice ring remains the same. Now what we also have is that the main sample loop, which is this one here, is now panned to one side. And then what I have is a second sample loop. So this one only addresses slice 6. And as you can see, slice 6 isn't in the ring originally of slices. So this is one that's constantly on the opposite side of the stereo field. So let's have a listen to that. So that's the idea. I had a little go with earlier with things like pitches and stuff and pitching it up. Didn't seem to work as well. So what we have here is that this second sort of live loop uses exactly the same kind of current position and the current position plus offset. So its kind of window is exactly the same size as all of the other slices. So the idea is that somehow they all kind of fit together. I mean, I picked number 6. I think it's just randomly. I just picked 6. It seemed to be one of the most kind of consistent positions in terms of this audio file. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea about where I'm kind of going now, because the idea will be that on one side you hear this live loop will always be kind of constantly changing, and this live loop is static. And then the way that these two parts might sort of overlap, or they might interfere with each other, how they might kind of create, something hopefully interesting. At least I hope it is. But now, because I've made current position a variable, I mean, once it's sort of set up, I could quite easily just go back in and give it a number to pull from the ring. And then that's how we will now sort of change the, change the performance, as it were. The things that I need to add to this now are that some way for the program to decide to change whatever the current position is. Because the finish is always relative to whatever current position is plus the offset. So what we need to do is find a way of setting this. Now, the way that I'm sort of doing this at the moment is look refers to the tick that's going on here. So I'm going to move this tick to the head of the code and turn this one into a look. So now everything that says look, we know refers to that tick. That makes it clear. When you apply the modulus, if it's 64 ticks have gone past and that equals 0, then do select pos, cell pos, which is select position, and that's all the way up here. Select position is probably a bit more complex than I really needed to make it. Still got the offset ink amount, which don't really need, so I'm just going to get rid of that right now. It was an interesting experiment, but for some reason it keeps popping up every time when I'm sort of working through this. So S is our current position, and T is a new one that it has to sort of choose from init pos. if S, which is the current position, is equal to the new position, T, this is the proposed new position. If they are equal, then you want it to select again. So if S equal to T, it's basically a recursive function, so it keeps calling itself until we get a unique value. Once we've got that, we then set the offset. So here's the offset. It's a random between offset minus the offset plus a fixed amount. That seems to give it a little bit of variation. Otherwise, if S doesn't equal T, then current position equals T, which is the new position, and offset equals another random value between these 2 points. And what I then have is this one that says if 1 in 2, which is that kind of probabilities thing, to go to inipos. So initpos becomes a randomized ring between these 2 points, so that it gives me some new values, and that will then allow new things to be chosen from new sample points to be played and chosen. So that's kind of the idea. Let's have a listen. So you can hear there a sort of a variety of textures coming through. And some of those textures are sort of quite long. They start to overlap quite a lot over each other. And this is really just the effect of the offsets, sort of selecting a large-ish number. And the thing to remember is that the original audio file is actually quite long. I think it's about 7 minutes. Which means that slice points are actually quite long, which is one of the reasons why the positions are really quite sort of low value, 0.0, 0.05 and so on, rather than sort of much larger numbers. So if we had a shorter file, then we would have to expand these sorts of numbers, or the offset would need to expand here. It would need to be a higher value. So that's what we have there. Now there are some other little things that, in terms of probabilities, that we might want to do. I'm going to get rid of these because I was just trying to work out what the value is. So here, this is what's happening. If the current sort of tick value, the look, mod 64 equals to 0, then do another kind of probability thing of 1 in 3. So if it's true, then do select pos. So what this means now is that the code will not update as quickly. Sometimes it might be a positive outcome, and therefore it will update quite frequently. Other times it might sort of stay on the same values for quite a while. I'm going to reduce this down to 16 just for us, so that things happen more quickly. Here we go. Okay, so in that we've got a variety of movements. Okay, so for the last part of this one, we're going to look at different random seeds. Now, so far, the pieces, like if we played it again and we didn't have this, the random seed instruction, then we would just get the same piece of music again. So that's one of the good things about that. Now, I'm using random in a variety of places, and by using a different random seed, you can kind of affect a different melodic output. So let's try random seed 0. So that's that one. So this is random seed 1. I'm not going to make you sit through like 44,000 values, don't worry. So that's the random seed 1, and this is number 2. So number 2 moves around quite a lot. I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff going on in there. And so this is where we can exert or sort of put another layer of kind of controls in, so that if there was a particular random seed within a particular section that kind of results in a particular type of output that you really like, and you're kind of performing or maybe you're recording, then being able to select the right random seed is actually going to give you a sort of a repeatable result. Now, one of the things that is kind of really important about this is that sometimes, I suppose, people, certainly in terms of things like creativity, you'll hear lots of people sort of talk about iterating and always be iterating and always kind of changing or slightly modifying. And the problem for in terms of music, like you look at a chord and you think, well, what is the iteration of a chord? Is it another chord? Is it something else? Does only one note change? Do several notes change? And of course, we're kind of free to control that as much as we want. But then when we look at things like the random seed is a really straightforward mechanism to iterate through. And you just go, okay, I'm going to go for 2, or maybe we'll say, what does number 3 sound like? I'm going to make you go through all of them, but you get the idea. Okay, I hope you like that, and see you next time. Bye for now.